Morning, guys, or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Mr. Drake here again, going to go through another quick lecture on D-Day. Your lesson today is on D-Day. This one will be a quicker one than the lesson on Pearl Harbor. So we have a warm-up, we have our lecture that I'm going to do, and then we have our primary source that we're going to check out, Eisenhower's letter. There's a couple questions for you guys to answer. And then finally, we've got our paragraph response. Today, Google Meet, like every day, will be from 9:30 to 10:30. Link is on the slide and available on the announcements page on Canvas. So let's get in. First thing I want you guys to do for your warm-up, I want you to think of heroes, your favorite hero, like Superman, Captain America, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, any of those. I want you to think of three things. What qualities describe a hero? What actions make someone a hero? And do you feel that America is a heroic country? And give me a reason. Second starters, I want you to give me a couple more qualities. I've got brave, selfless, bold. What are some other things that a hero can do? Makes them a hero. Person's a hero when they describe a heroic situation. Tell me something that a hero could do. This doesn't necessarily even need to be a superhero. It could just be a regular person. What kind of things could they do to be a hero? And finally, I want to know, is America a heroic country? Yes or no? Is it something that they do that's heroic to you? Yes, no. Let me know what you guys think right here. Your FLT today is you will be able to analyze America's contributions during D-Day by writing a paragraph. So on D-Days, June 6th, 1944, America loses over 3,000 people in one day. In one battle, they lose 3,000. So I want you to analyze all the contributions America gave to D-Day. So we're going to start out looking at American principles and ideas. So a principle is a fundamental thing that a country believes in. Every country has principles. Every person has principles. A key principle of America is the pursuit of happiness, the idea that everyone should be able to own property. I want you guys to come up with another key principle. What's something that just about everybody in America believes in? That's a principle. Now, an ideal is something that you think is something you strive for, something that you want to be better. An American ideal is equality. In America, everyone is equal. Everyone should have the same chance of reaching that American dream, right? Everyone should have the ability to get rich, to make a good life for themselves and their family. That's something that we as Americans, that's one of our ideals. My question to you guys is, has America always believed in this? Has this always been true? If it has not, or if it has, give me a reason, some evidence that proves your statement. And lastly, think back to our unit on our lesson on the Holocaust. We think in America we have freedom and democracy, opportunity for immigrants, for other people to have a better life, the pursuit of happiness, the idea that they can own property, that people can own property. Have these principles and ideals been denied to Europeans living under the Nazis? Give me one example, yes or no. If you think that everyone in the Nazis have the same rights, you put no, these principles were not denied to Europeans. And then give an example of how they had all their rights, and vice versa. Moving forward, D-Day. This is the battle to liberate Europe from Nazis' control. The Nazis, they had this idea called the Blitzkrieg. We've talked about just briefly. It was the idea they can just storm in, take over places, and they control them now. Basically, all of the continent of Europe is under Nazi control. D-Day is when the Allies gather in Britain, America, what's left of the French army, and the British to take back France from Nazi control. They need to secure a landing spot for their troops, for their tanks, for all their stuff, so they can fight the Nazis better. France is occupied by Germany. This is the largest amphibious assault in history. Amphibious means land and water. So you can see down here, these ships, the people came over on these ships. The whole time they're getting bombed, they're getting shot at. These little these doors right here that dropped down and let the people off, they also were basically shields as they rolled up to the shore. The Germans are shooting at them. They're hiding behind this little thing. They land at the beach of Normandy. Normandy is in the north of France. 175,000 troops landed on this 60-mile stretch of beach. So imagine if you've been to the beach, just people everywhere. And it goes on for miles and miles and miles. 60 miles is like, I think it's probably like from Huntington Beach up past the airport. At least it's quite it's a long distance. It's a huge battle. Now, the United States troops, they land at what's called Omaha Beach is the code name for the beach that they land at. They lose 3,000 people the first day. And you'll see in a couple clips where this battle is literally, these guys are getting off these boats while the Germans have just machine guns pointing at them and they're just mowing them down. That's the way this battle was fought. If you died there, you were just buried where you stood. It was too many people to transport the bodies somewhere else. They buried them and left them there on that beach in Normandy. You can go, if you are lucky enough to go to France, you can go to Normandy, and it's real spooky. Like, lots and lots and lots and lots of people have died there, and their bodies are there. And it's really spooky. I've been there, and it's an eerie feeling. So, before we think of the pain and suffering, there's a quick story about D-Day. Hitler himself, who was not a military genius, but everything he had wanted to do has worked so far. So he was convinced that the Allied assault on the beach was going to take place a little bit further away at a place called Calais, a different beach. And so he decided that all the German troops needed to be at Calais, not at Normandy. Hitler's top general, Erwin Rommel, he disagreed. He thought that they were going to go to Normandy. Hitler overruled him and moved their troops away. That's part of the reason why the Allies were able to be successful in this battle. Also, this D-Day had to get pushed back 2 times because the weather was so terrible, it was so foggy, and they couldn't see anything, so they could not execute the mission. Finally, June 6th, they decided they're going to go for it. And June 6th, it is still foggy. So they're not able to bomb out the German artillery. They're not able to take out the machine guns, which is part of the reason why so many people died, because the weather was just so bad. Now, let's think of the pain and suffering that Hitler's caused. We've talked about the Holocaust, how he's invaded Poland, the Battle of Britain, bombing people constantly. He owns almost all of France. He owns almost all of Europe, and they all have to listen to what he has to say. So if we're thinking of the pain and suffering that he's caused, Hitler, not a good guy, right? I want you to answer this question. Were the 3,000 American lives lost worth the chance of stopping Hitler? This is an opinion question. I want you to say yes, it was, no, it was not, and give me a reason. There isn't really a right answer here. I'm more curious about your reasons. Why do you think that this is right, or why do you think that this is wrong? You can pause, get your answer down, and then press play again. I'm going to continue on. Now, D-Day is the beginning of the end for the Germans. They go on, the Allies, they fight at the Battle of the Bulge, where it's really Germany's last offensive. They try and they throw everything they can at this battle. This battle goes on for a couple months. 76,000 Allied troops die, but ultimately they win. After the Battle of the Bulge, this is when the troops start to find those concentration camps. If you watch the clip from the Holocaust lecture on Band of Brothers, I showed a clip of an HBO series about these Allied troops discovering the concentration camps. Fairly quickly, a little bit less than a year after D-Day, we have what's called VE Day, Victory in Europe. That is, once the Allies take over at the beach, they pretty quickly defeat the Germans. Like they're able to win in less than a year, about 11 months. They're able to defeat the Germans. But there's this thing called the Race for Berlin. If you remember, the Soviets, they started attacking the Germans as well. The Allies are attacking the Germans on the other side. There's this race to get to the German capital of Berlin. The Allies are terrified that Stalin is going to take over Eastern Europe. And if Stalin takes over Eastern Europe, what kind of government do you think Stalin's going to implement in Eastern Europe? The Soviets, they get almost all the land east of Germany, Poland, what we call the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, Eastern Europe, and they get Berlin. They get to Berlin first. So my question, the one I just asked, what type of government would Stalin want to establish in these countries? What kind of government is the Soviet Union? What kind of government does he lead already? Why do you think he would establish that government? Let me know in those two highlighted areas. Now, Berlin falls May 2nd, right before, basically the last thing to fall is Berlin, right? But even just before that, the president who had been the guy, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the guy who's been president for this whole war, he dies less than a month before the end of the war. He almost makes it. His vice president, Harry Truman, he takes over. A few days before the Germans fall, Hitler knows he's surrounded, knows it's not going to go well for him. He kills himself. This picture right over here is Adolf Hitler after he's committed suicide. Now, this might be the most important question I've asked you in this unit so far. Do you blame Hitler or the German people for starting World War I? Who is to blame here? And I want you to keep in mind, the German people voted Hitler in. They gave him the power that Hitler used. He took more and more, but the Germans let him do it. So I want you to think about, who do you blame, Hitler or the people? Again, there's not a wrong answer here. I just want to see how you support your claim with evidence. Now, I've got two clips. One of them is a History Channel little clip, 3-minute short thing about D-Day. Got a little bit more of the historical facts, a little bit of a recreation. And I also have the opening scene to Saving Private Ryan. This is when they stormed the beach at Normandy, and it's going to be a little bit more violent. You'll see a little bit more blood, but it shows you how tough the conditions were as people stormed those beaches. Now, Eisenhower, he was the head of the troops. He gave a message to the troops before D-Day. Imagine what you'd have to say to people knowing that you're just throwing them in front of machine guns. Imagine what you would say to those men to get them excited, to get them fired up, to get them to even just do it. So you guys are going to read his letter. It's on Canvas. I want you to scan the letter. If you don't know any of the words, bold them. Anything you think is important, I want you to highlight. And I want you to put at least 3 comments on the margin. If you highlight a word and right click, there'll be an option to comment, or up at the top right, there's a button that you can see right next to the share button that says comment. I want you to add at least 3 comments onto the document. Finally, there's a couple guiding questions. I want you to look at them. That's the kind of stuff that is the most important information stuff that you can probably highlight. So you answer them, probably also give you good things to highlight. And lastly, once you're done there, I want a paragraph response from you. I have this question for you. You're going to answer it on the next slide so you have enough room to write. On June 6th, 1944, 3,000 American soldiers lost their lives when the Allied forces invaded the beaches of Normandy. The purpose was to liberate Europe and to stop the Nazis. Analyze how much America had to sacrifice to be the world's hero on D-Day. So think about, do you think America was a hero? Were they heroic? Did they do some heroic things? Think about your warm-up stuff in the beginning. Identify some ways that Americans sacrificed in order to stop Hitler. Finally, after World War II, how do you think the Europeans that were liberated felt towards the United States? Do you think that America deserved those feelings? Did they do well? Lastly, I got a little sentence starter to get your paragraph off. Remember, a paragraph is 5 sentences. America had to sacrifice blank to be the world's hero on D-Day. They had to sacrifice multiple things. Think of a couple of them. Think about how your ideas of what a hero is relates to America on D-Day. I want you to put those things together. As always, I'm available on Remind, email, and Google Meet. I'm easy to get in touch with. Please, please, please feel free to reach out if you need to. I am here to help you. Most days I just sit behind my computer and wait for you guys to help me or wait for you guys to ask me for help. So give me something to do. Let me help you out. Hopefully this helped you. I'll talk to you in the next one.